Over the past 20 years, fewer than 100 people have died from vaping, while more than 100 million have died from smoking regular cigarettes. In Thailand, the tobacco death toll is 71,000 people each year, and from vaping, 0. So why are cigarettes available in every convenience store while e-cigarettes are banned? Let's take a deeper dive. The subject of e-cigarettes or vaping devices splits opinion around Southeast Asia and the rest of the world, but it's particularly controversial here in Thailand. Use of tobacco is the #1 preventable cause of death all over the world, with at least half of smokers dying from their habit. There are slightly more than 1 billion smokers, and 8 million die from smoking-related diseases each year. In Thailand, the smoking death toll is 71,000 people per year. E-cigarettes were introduced to Europe and the US back in 2006. A 2023 peer-reviewed scientific paper estimated there were 82 million vapers worldwide in 2021, compared to just over 1 billion smokers. Vaping devices are banned in some countries, but promoted as an effective way to reduce the smoking death toll in others. It's quite clear where the Thai government stands on the issue. E-cigarettes have been effectively illegal since 2015, and officials frequently highlight the dangers of vaping while staying silent on smoking. But what is the truth, and what is smoke and mirrors? In this deeper dive, we'll look at the scientific evidence for the relative dangers of smoking and vaping, and we'll ask these questions. What are the health risks from vaping versus combustible cigarettes? Since e-cigarettes have only been around since 2006, how likely is it that they'll cause disease as vapers get older? How effective is vaping to get people either to quit or avoid smoking for good? How likely is it that people will get addicted to nicotine from vaping and then transition to cigarettes? Should tobacco-flavored e-liquid be treated differently from candy flavors specifically marketed to children? If e-cigarettes are much safer than tobacco cigarettes, and many smokers would have switched to vaping if it was legal, what is the likely death toll from Thailand's ban? And finally, among the hundreds of millions of foreign tourists since 2015, how many vapers may have switched back to cigarettes during their stay here and will eventually die as a result? First, let's look at the relative dangers of smoking and vaping. According to the US Surgeon General's report from 2016, traditional combustible cigarettes contain more than 17,000 carcinogens, cancer-causing substances. E-cigarettes are not entirely free of these compounds, but one report said the quantities of toxins and carcinogens in e-liquid are so much lower than in cigarettes that they're unlikely to cause a health risk. One danger specific to vaping is that not enough liquid reaches the heating element in a vaping device. More formaldehyde may form than when smoking. And one chemical of concern in unregulated e-liquid flavors like vanilla and coconut is diacetyl, which has been linked to a disease known as popcorn lung. Well, so much for the chemical components. What are the actual statistics of deaths and disease from vaping? During the EVALI outbreak of 2019 and 2020, 68 people in the US died from a lung disease that was ultimately linked to a specific type of e-liquid that contained THC and the dangerous chemical vitamin E acetate. Now, for context, that's 68 fatalities in a 2-year period when almost 1 million Americans died from smoking. How about stats in another country where vaping is common, the UK? Between May 2016 and January 2022, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency received 257 reports of adverse reactions, but 0 deaths. And the agency explained that a report is not proof that the reaction was caused by a vaping product, just that the reporter thought it might have been. In addition to these statistics, I found 2 recorded fatalities worldwide from the batteries in vapes exploding, which we should probably compare to the thousands killed in fires caused by lit cigarettes. Overall, fewer than 100 people have died as a result of vaping since 2004. The worldwide death toll from smoking during that period is more than 100 million. So, what do governments and health authorities think of the dangers of vaping versus smoking? That very much depends on where you are. Britain's National Health Service said vaping is, quote, far less harmful than cigarettes, and vaping is actively promoted in the UK as a means to lower the death toll from smoking. Britain's Royal College of Physicians said that e-cigarettes should be promoted as an effective means of helping people who smoke to quit. And in 2015, an independent review published by Public Health England that included the results of animal testing concluded that vaping devices are about 95% safer than smoking cigarettes. Here in Thailand, the narrative is completely different. Numerous officials have said that vaping is as dangerous as smoking. Dr. Thongchai Girati Hatayagon, Chief of the Department of Disease Control, said the number of patients with e-cigarette related diseases, especially severe lung infections, has dramatically increased. I reached out to the Ministry of Health to ask for the evidence for that, but I received no response. I asked because I was unable to find a single case of vaping-induced death in Thailand, and no confirmed cases of serious disease, except one in a man with underlying diseases. It's possible there have been some, but neither the Health Ministry or any anti-vaping organizations responded to my request for such statistics. Yet, despite this apparent lack of evidence, vaping is illegal and trumpeted as a major health threat, while very little is said about the cigarettes that, according to the World Health Organization, kill 71,000 Thais each year. That's 47 people a day. So, why the anti-vaping hysteria? One motivation appears to be economic. The Bangkok Post quoted an official from the autonomous government agency Thai Health as saying, e-cigarettes will have a widespread effect on tobacco farmers in the country. Farmers will suffer income loss. But is it worth 71,000 lives a year to protect tobacco farmers? If it doesn't matter that their crop is deadly, why not let them grow opium? It costs an estimated 98 billion baht to treat smoking-related diseases every year, which could be used to compensate farmers for growing something else or rewilding the land to help fight climate change. In fact, my guest today says the farmers could continue growing tobacco. The crop could be used partially for heat-not-burn devices and partially to produce liquid nicotine for vape juice. And in that case, the argument that legalizing vaping would put tobacco farmers out of business has no merit. The next issue, does vaping help smokers quit? A 2021 peer-reviewed study found that daily e-cigarette usage among US tobacco smokers can increase the likelihood of quitting smoking 8-fold. A 2019 peer-reviewed randomized control study also found that daily e-cigarette use leads to an almost doubled rate of smoking abstinence than other nicotine replacement products after 1 year. But could vaping be a gateway to smoking? A 2023 research letter found that exclusive e-cigarette users are unlikely to transition to combustible tobacco. On the other hand, a joint survey by Thailand's Ministry of Public Health, Ministry of Education, and the World Health Organization found that 13 to 15-year-old Thai vapers were up to 3 times more likely to use tobacco products in the future. And what could explain the opposite findings? One reason could be that because e-cigarettes are illegal in Thailand, they're harder to obtain, and once someone's hooked on nicotine, if they can't find a vape, they'll smoke a regular cigarette available in every convenience store to get their fix. But that study also showed something that people on both sides of the issue find disturbing, that the use of e-cigarettes among school children aged 13 to 15 years in Thailand increased from 3.3% in 2015 to 8.1% in 2021. And pretty much everyone agrees that e-cigarettes should not be marketed to children and they are being despite the ban. Well, that's a lot of data to wrap our heads around. And to help us make sense of the debate over vaping, I'm joined now by a proponent of e cigarettes as a much safer alternative to conventional cigarettes. In order to provide balance, I did send numerous requests to the Thai Ministry of Health and several anti vaping agencies for someone to argue the case that e cigarettes are, in fact, more dangerous than all the statistics show. But I got no response. So now I give you Asa Saligupta, president of Ends Cigarette Smoking Thailand. Asa, thanks for joining us here on Deeper Dive. 71,000 Thais a year die from smoking. Do we know how harmful vaping is to human health? Because I reached out to the Thai Ministry of Health, to some of the government bodies that are vocally anti-vaping, and I got no response. What are the medical disadvantages of vaping in Thailand? Has anyone died?
In Thailand, no, I haven't heard. There are of course, like we have to say, like I'm not saying vaping is completely safe, but what we are talking, and like you mentioned, we have to compare to what is now readily available everywhere, which is combustible cigarettes. And you said 70,000 per year. So by the end of this discussion, you and me, right? This session, there already some people died from smoking, either first hand or second hand. And since vaping started in 2003, and I started vaping since about 2005, 4, 5, since the beginning of electronic cigarettes, since the cigarette. Uh, Personally, and from what I've heard, and I've been in this society for a very long time, I have not heard of one people die from vaping, either directly or indirectly, or just because of accident or anything. No, not even one.
Now, there was an outbreak of a disease that was known as EVALI in the US, and that was a
Right.
lung disease, and 60 people died in 2019 and 2020. But that was
Uh-huh.
found to be a specific kind of e liquid that actually contained THC, which is the element
Right.
that gets you high in marijuana. So and even so, that's 60 people in a 2 year period up against almost a million Americans that died from smoking.
Mm-hmm.
So it just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't compute. Why is there so much push from Thai authorities to say that vaping is as dangerous as cigarettes? Because I've seen several people actually say that. Why are they saying that when there's no evidence for it?
All right, let's say let's leave the scientific. Let's go back to the scientific evidence first. You talk about EVALI, right? So
Mm,
it is partially correct that you mentioned THC, but not just THC. You can get a vape liquid that contain THC, but it's very, very expensive. Now, if you look further, the EVALI cases that happened only in United States, and in the states that marijuana and THC and cannabis is illegal for recreational purposes. So there are specifically there's one company that they say, like, hey, why not we just lace THC with vitamin E acetate, because the regular THC droplets, that you drop under the tongue, is
right.
too thick to be vaporized. So they mix it with vitamin E acetate, and that's when it was heated and cooled down, it became so sticky and gooey and covered the lung. Now, that's the reason why people became what happened with what is they just named EVALI, because first of all, they say, like, well, mainly the patient from EVALI and the people who die from EVALI, mainly they vape. But then when they study further, they say, like, wait, it's THC, it's vitamin E acetate laced, And even CDC of USA and even US FDA had come out and accepted that the main cause was, like you said, like you mentioned, it was because people vape THC.
It wasn't vapes in general that caused these
No,
60
not at
deaths
all.
over the 2 year period.
No,
Okay.
right. Now, back to Thailand, come back to where we're sitting right here, like especially with your background, of course. Since we're gonna do a deep dive, what we're gonna do, what the reason that a lot of people in officials, first of all, they don't want to risk, right? I have heard some high-ranking officials say like they don't want to be named the person that opened the market for something that is not completely safe. Well, that's okay in one sense, but you have to think that there are millions of vapers in Thailand, either occasionally or vape like on a regular basis or had tried, or just what we call vapers, right? There are millions. So the market is already here. And if you don't agree with me, or if like anyone who's watching and don't want to agree, or want to have some argument, just step out. Or you don't even have to step out. You pick up your phone and search, Google search a specific or any kind of I mean any kind of vape devices or liquids or whatever, and then you put the word raka or price, but better put the word raka, which is the price in Thai, and the whole list will come out like delivered to your door. And you go to flea market, you even like in department stores, and every tambon, ampere, every provinces, I mean, not just big province, or big district, everywhere there are lots of vape stores and vape shops. So the market is already here. Back to some of the reason that they started saying like vaping is more dangerous is there is no such evidence. Even representative of WHO, there's a representative. There was a meeting a few years back in the Philippines. Now she represents World Health Organization. There's one question that was asked, say like, yes or no, madam, is electronic cigarette safer than combustible cigarette? Well, of course, in the beginning, she started to go like rambling on and say like, no, madam,
Mm.
I just want a simple answer, yes or no. The answer came out as yes. Yes, meaning that vaping is safer than smoking.
I mean, the Royal College of Surgeons said that it's about 95% safer. Obviously, it's
Right.
difficult to quantify, but I'm glad you brought up the WHO, the World Health Organization, because they have come out quite strongly against vaping. And some people think that they may not be immune to the influence of the tobacco lobby. Do you see that having any role?
I don't think mainly the reason is because of they were afraid of big tobacco, because there's an article 5.3, which, if we have time, we could go deeper into that. But article 5.3 had come out to say like they don't want the government to be influenced by big tobacco. All right, that's it. That's article 5.3. Now it's difficult to interpret the word interfere or influenced by. But I think mainly the big character at play behind the screen, more or less, is big pharmacy. It's big pharma,
Big pharma.
more. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people had mentioned this, but uh, my own background, my own personal background, I'm in pharmaceutical and health being for over 20 years already. We've been doing my own personal factories and with probiotics and whatnot. So I'm in health field for a very long time, even before I switched to vaping. And big pharma is very influential, and you got to think about this. Like hospitals and big pharmaceutical companies, they invest lots and lots and lots. I mean, they have millions of dollars for cancer, the chemotherapy, machinery and medical and everything, right? And plus personals to cure cancer, but they couldn't.
So wait, what are you saying? When Big Pharma is interested in claiming that vaping is more dangerous than it is because they manufacture nicotine replacement products themselves, or why? Why is Big Pharma involved?
Uh-huh. Now we are getting in the juicy part, because Big Pharma had invented nicotine replacement like patches, gums,
Right.
and everything in between, right? Especially there's a medication called varenicline. That is the most successful NRT. It's a pills you take to quit smoking. And the second most successful is vaping, is electronic cigarette in general. Varenicline had been
Okay.
pulled out from the market. You probably have heard of that because of the side effect. It's
Yeah.
too much. So the number one quitting therapy or whatever you want to call it is electronic cigarette, which has nothing with the big pharma cannot control. They are not the producers, and after that, everything in between is coming from big pharma. And what I was talking about the hospital and whatnot, like, hey, come and get me, because this is definitely the truth.
Wow.
Whatever is
Okay.
your possession, you don't want to get rid of your customer. So if you heal people who have cancer, then they'll be gone. They'll go away. They'll disappear. Vaping help people quit smoking, and the main reason for cancer from smoking is because of the combustion. Vaping or even the heated tobacco product, they don't have combustion. Combustion leads to tar, and tar is the main items that coated your lungs and cause cancer. Plus, there are lots and lots and lots of carcinogens in regular tobacco cigarette that we don't have it in that's why the Royal College of Physicians in London stated that vaping is 95% safer without the
Right.
tar, without combustion.
Okay, Asa, so you're saying it's Big Pharma more than big tobacco
Oh
that
yeah.
is involved in the campaign against vaping. But as far as Thailand goes, the Bangkok Post quoted a senior official from the Thai Health Promotion Foundation as saying e-cigarettes will have a widespread effect on tobacco farmers in the country. Farmers will suffer income loss. So I'm wondering what farmers' income has to do with the health of Thais, and the other question is it worth killing 71,000 people a year to protect farmers? Because the
All right.
medical bills alone would pay for to compensate the farmers, right? 93 billion baht per
Right.
year is the cost
Right.
of smoking, of treating smokers.
Exactly. That's the word, not from the tobacco farmers. Let me remind you this, because I have flown to Chiang Rai. I have talked with tobacco farmers. In the beginning, they started to complain about the incoming and the influx of electronic cigarette, because they said, like, okay, since people is gonna go to vaping instead, of course, within their own fields, they don't really care much about other people's health anyway, because they produce tobacco. So the main concern is for, we have to take care of our family first. I understand that. But I talked to tobacco farmers, and within half an hour or 45 minutes, they completely understood and still understand that it's not replacement per se. So I said, like, listen, right now vaping is illegal to manufacture or whatever, but if vaping is the vaping ban has been lifted, if it has been lifted, right, the benefit from tobacco farmers, The other 50% that they cannot sell and have to just leave it to be run, right? That 50% can be divided. They can make it turn into what is called a heat stick, which is very simple. Just hash, the Thai tobacco, the monopoly, the authority, they already have some know-how to make heat stick.
What do you mean by heat
Heat
stick?
stick is it looks like a regular cigarette.
Okay.
And then you put it in a container. It belongs to a heated tobacco product, right? So you
Oh,
have
okay.
like a electric thingy, but you don't use like regular liquid as electronic cigarette. And you have what is called heat stick, is very small and use a very specific type of technology and know-how to heat the tobacco, not burn, no combustion involved.
Right. This is
So
a
the
tobacco
original one I can
product
show
that's
because I
less
don't think they
harmful
use
than
it anymore.
conventional
It's like a
cigarettes.
small blade.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
and
Okay.
these are from Big Tobacco. All of the main players in Big Tobacco, either Philip Morris, BAT, JTC, the Korean, they also have their own versions of heated tobacco product. And then the rest, they can turn into liquid nicotine, which is, like worldwide, all over the world, you need liquid nicotine to mix with e-liquid, with the vape juice.
But the point is, this is one argument against vaping that is out the window because
Completely
tobacco
untrue.
farmers will not be put out of business as a result of vaping.
Right.
So that's significant.
Right.
Now, you mentioned
Right.
that there are many carcinogenic chemicals in cigarettes, and vaping is supposedly 95% safer, not 100%
Right.
safer, because some of those chemicals are in e-liquid and in vaping. Can you talk about that? Like, what levels of those chemicals exist, and could they cause cancer?
The possibility of causing cancer is very low because they are it's called the industrial tolerance level. So everything that we live in our surrounding, everything, like you go out on the street, especially in Bangkok or in any metropolis, the exhaust, the fume from exhaust, everything is worse than vape itself. You talk about the liquid. The liquid contains mainly VG, which is vegetable glycerin, right? PG, propylene glycol, flavoring. If you can control it, then the flavoring has to be at least US FDA or food grade flavoring. Now the PG and VG is already medical grade. You use in inhaler for asthma people and whatnot. So that's definitely contains no carcinogen. There are maybe some carcinogen, very minute level in some of flavorings. Nicotine in itself, if we can control and if we can have if we have some regulations, we say like all nicotines for e-liquid here in Thailand must come from our government. So the government control it.
This is a big problem with making vaping illegal, is that the e-liquids that are being imported, a lot of them from China, are not quality controlled. So actually, vaping is already a lot safer, it seems, but it would be safer still if there was government regulation.
Could be from 95 to 98% safer. Like in England, they started at 95%. That was about 10 years ago, right? Right now, it's step up to 98% safer, and the British government even hand out the controlled, the vape items to those people who want to quit smoking.
Yeah, the British government's actually offering vapes for free as a means to quit smoking, even while Thailand and other countries in Asia are demonizing it and making it highly illegal. When we're talking about the chemical composition, though, of e-liquid, what about people who say, yes, but e-cigarettes are a new phenomenon. What happens if down the road, 20, 30 years from now, people develop serious diseases from them, cancer or something else? What do you say to those people?
Hey, I'm, I'm not in denial. The possibility is there. You don't even have to talk about 20, 30 years from now. We even can talk like what had already happened. Allergy is something very personal. Uh, it could be that you could be allergic to nicotine, or like even for me, like there are something in what is called salt nic that doesn't agree with me, and my tolerance level with salt nicotine is very, very low. But again, we have to talk to, like, we have to be more generalized. Vaping had been around for 20 years at least. I had vaped for 15 years, and me and person around me, and we have hundreds of thousands of testimonials of Thai people saying vaping is safer. That should be enough. I'm not saying we had done a few years back, about 5 years, for the World No Tobacco Day. And so we started a concept of World Vaping Day. And I asked the people, I started myself, well, before I before I quit smoking and turned to vaping, I went to the doctor and had my lung x-ray, right? And they started to be spotted. And the doctor said, like,
You
hey,
had
you
spots in
should
your
quit.
lungs from
Yeah,
smoking.
I had from smoking, and the director of the hospital said, like, hey, dude, like, you gotta quit smoking. And even then, I couldn't. Just because I couldn't, they said, like, quitting is easy. No, it's not. It's
Mm.
I don't know why. Maybe I'm weak-minded or whatever, like. But I couldn't until I finally found a way to switch. And about 5 years ago, so that means I had been vaping for regularly for about 7 or 8 years, and I went back to the same doctor, same hospital, did my lung X-ray, and further than that, I did like a what is called a lung capacity test. You have to blow into a tube, and then they test your lung. The doctor, the director, was so surprised. He was like, because he remembered, he told me, he said, like, so you did quit smoking? I said, yeah, I did quit smoking. I turned to vaping instead. And he laughed. He said, like, good for you, man, because all the spots were gone.
Right.
And when I blew the capacity, what it determined is like, how old are you and how old is your lung, right? I was 60. That was about 5 years ago. So I was like 60-ish. My lung was about 3 years younger than my real age, blowing the
Right.
capacity. But before that, my lung was like about 5 or 6 years older than my real age. So it just like kind of like it just improved. So I say, like, if you can quit it, it's excellent. But if you cannot, then to say that vaping is more dangerous, more harmful, it's not true. There's no scientific evidence to back up against that, unless misuse, battery explosion, which, like, hey, it happens even with the car you drive every day, or the cellular phones and whatnot, mobile phone.
Right. These incidents are so rare compared, say, with the 480,000 Americans
Yeah.
that die every year, 71,000 Thais. There's just no comparison.
Can I just while we are on the topic of allergic and the harm that could cause, I'm allergic to crab. A lot of people are allergic to seafood. I never go out and say, like, let's ban crab or let's ban shrimp, or like a friend of mine, very close friend, he could not tolerate, like, you just a bite of shrimp and you just send him directly to hospital. But we never go out to say, like, hey, let's close down all seafood stores. You have to know
Right.
yourself also.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
it would seem like someone coming from another planet would say, okay, you've got one substance that's going to kill half the people that use it, and that's cigarettes. And you got one substance that there's no real evidence of any significant health danger. And the one that's killing people is available in every convenience store, and the other one is illegal. It would seem to be upside down, right?
Exactly. in in Thailand, what was so funny was that the reason I laughed was that I laugh, I could cry, like the reason was vaping had already been categorized as a tobacco product.
Right.
So what is going on? It's a tobacco product. The more harmful tobacco product is on sales everywhere legally,
Right.
convenience store everywhere, and then the safer product is banned. So I'm going like
Yeah.
to talk about banning. I know the next question you're gonna ask.
Well,
Go
we're
ahead.
talking about the ban, and you're saying that actually vaping itself is not technically illegal in Thailand. Just explain that to me. It's just the
Yeah.
importation.
It's this is I had been I had traveled all over the world and speak on many forums, especially on harm reduction forum, like in Europe and in Asia and in Australia, in what was it, Melbourne, Melbourne City Health, all over. And when I mentioned the laws and regulations in Thailand, it's got everyone by surprise, because right now there are only two laws concerning, sorry, I cannot, there are only two laws concerning electronic cigarette. The first one is that you cannot import for commercial purpose. All right. Importation for commercial purpose, because it's under the Ministry of Commerce that first came out with the laws about 10 years ago. The 10 and a half years, almost 11 years, came out with this law and saying like, okay, it is illegal to import items that had not been uh, properly taxed. And since there is no tax, any tax ratio or quota, that there's no a tax value for electronic cigarette. Therefore, electronic cigarette cannot be imported because it cannot be taxed. So it's that's the first law that came out. So that means, in another word, electronic cigarette is illegal to import because you cannot tax it. That's it. That's the first one, right? And then a few months after that, there's another law concerning consumer right, saying like the Consumer Protection Agency came out with a bylaw saying like you cannot distribute electronic. This one is specific. You cannot distribute electronic cigarette. Period. And when I say
Okay.
period, I mean that's the end of the laws. Now you see the loopholes in here.
Well, you're saying that the act of vaping itself is not illegal. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
because like, for if you uh to get caught broken, the first law is you have to go to the border or the point of entry, and then if you see some shipment or like some containers, or you bring in lots and lots, you fly in, you flew in, you walk in or whatever, that's the point of entry, and then say like, okay, this has not been taxed, there's no taxation, so has been confiscated, maybe like jail terms and fines and whatnot. The second is distribution. Distribution is selling or giving away. So you are asking like possession. No possession. I didn't break any laws.
So there have been many documented cases, though, of people being stopped in the street while vaping and being fined. Are you saying that's actually they haven't broken the law?
Well, there are someone that broke that laws, but the person who broke the law was the officers in question.
Okay.
You probably have heard something more serious than that. Was that okay? You talk about people. There are two Chinese, to be specific. There are two Chinese guy. He bought just a disposable vape, walking around Sukhumvit area, and he was caught by two police officers who already got off the duty, who was not in that precinct, and bribe him like, hey, electronic cigarette is illegal, just give me like 10,000 baht and things like that. And that's one of the case, probably the case you were talking about. That's the worst case for me, was one of the worst case was a few years back. There was this family from France. I don't know if you have heard it or not. There's this family from France, and this girl, female girl, I shouldn't say girl, they them, I don't know. This female, this young female, she's about 20-ish. She came with her fiance and her family, her father and her mother, and they already quit smoking and they vape. So they went to Phuket. They flew directly from somewhere into Phuket, right? And they rent scooters, 2 scooters. Her fiance was riding one. She was in the back and was holding a disposable vape in her hand. The police came by and tried to bribe them and say, like, they need to pay like about 20,000 baht per person. So it comes out to like 120,000 baht. And she said, no, she doesn't have. So, like it went on and they tried to throw her in jail. And so in the end, the father said, like, hey, I'm not paying. I don't have that kind of money. So they confiscated her passport. By the time they had to leave, because they are on vacation, so 5 or 7 days up, she cannot fly out with her family from Phuket because she does not have her passport. So they sent her to immigration office in Bangkok, and she had to wait in jail, in a jail cell, in maybe like jail cell is too harsh, in a containment cells, waiting for her passport. The officials from the immigration office in Bangkok say, like, so what's the reason? Because she's gonna have to be deported. In the end, the things that came back was only her passport. And so they flew her, kind of like expelled her out. Once she was back
Deported.
in France, she put up a big press conference. And one of the things that was really weird was like she was like, I was surprised, Thailand. I thought Thailand is going to be more civilized. That went widespread all over the world. And there are cases that, like in Pattaya, the police doesn't arrest the people who sell them, but they just wait until like there looks like some prey walk in and buy electronic cigarette from the store, and then they show themselves as police officers and arrested and try to get some money. Terrible.
Yeah, the corruption issue is obviously a whole different topic of discussion.
Yeah.
One interesting point to make, though, because Thailand bans vapes, a lot of foreign tourists, I mean, in 2019, there was 40 million foreign tourists landing in Thailand. Presumably, a number of them were not able to get their e-cigarettes, so they may have gone back to regular smoking, and a proportion of them will have died. So
Yeah.
to that extent, the Thai vaping ban has not only killed Thais, it's also killed foreigners. It's and it's something to take into account.
Yep. We also, we had touched on that topics at some of the meetings. I had quite a few meetings with high officials in the government, and those are some of the topics that we touch on. And if you remember the incident in Pattaya, there are way too many tourists that ambassadors from, I think, 11 countries went to the police, the provincial police office in Pattaya, in Chonburi, and asking, say, like, like, could you do something against like not arresting their citizens? And the police chief say, like, well, if they broke the law, we're gonna have to do something. We cannot, like, even you are ambassadors, we're gonna have to arrest you. And that was the time before the amendment of the new custom laws was amended. So at that time, it was really iffy that possession Vaping is not illegal, that's for sure. But at that time, possession is kind of like iffy, because if you possess something that had not been regularly imported, meaning that had paid tax, then they could confiscate you, and they could fine you like 3.75 times the price of whatever that subject is. But corruption is another thing, though. It's not 10,000, 30,000 baht. Definitely not. Maybe like 750 or 1,000 baht maximum.
Now, a lot of publicity, particularly over the past 6 months in Thailand, has surrounded youth vaping, with a number
Mhm.
of school kids have been vaping, and they've been vaping products that specifically designed to appeal to children, that look like toys and that are in flavors designed to appeal to kids, like a lot of sugary flavors, vanilla. Presumably, you don't think, do you think all kinds of vapes should be legal?
Okay, wow, that is very difficult question. Okay, let's talk about alcohol. Let's just leave vaping for a minute, right?
Okay,
Let's talk about alcohol. How many flavors does rum and gin and alcohol and whatever have? Have cherry, have the sweet one, sweet wine.
sure.
Uh, isn't it the same? Why 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 can there be some control and regulations against those? Why, cherries and strawberries and even beer. I had some in Germany. I have some really, really delicious beer that are really flavory and sweet and well, not really sweet, but if you talk about flavor texture, it could be appealing to youth and young kids and children. Now, toy pot, I have to agree. I kind of like hardly agree. We also discussed that. Let's say, like, if we can control it, right? I'm appeal to kids like items. Personally, I'm over 60 years old. I'm gonna be 70 soon. But I enjoy something bright and cheerful. I don't like something dark and gloomy and black and gray, and I have been advocate for something like, hey, do something pink and orange, and those are my favorite colors with some patterns, and as long as we have some kind of laws and regulations. And I totally agree that I don't want kids. I even say, like, hey, in medical fields or the antis, they said, like, they don't want kid and youth to come, like, and start vaping or smoking. I said, like, let me add something. I'm against all nicotine naive people. If you never smoke, if you never try, don't try.
Right.
I'm advocate even for for smoking and everything as well. And even if you are 50 years old, you want to start trying, I say, like, don't. No, it's not good for you. Right? Our main thing is that we want some kind of choice for people who has no choice, either vaping or smoking. Those two choices, then of course I recommend vaping instead of smoking. But to your question, it's not really, it's why don't we say, like, let's ban promotion that aims toward kid and young people, not the product itself. Think about this. Many countries are trying to go to, like, say, like, you can only have tobacco products. In certain group of people, they would say, like, so why bother? Why just keep on smoking? It's much easier. It's more convenient. I can buy it anywhere. The doctors are trying to say, like, one of the best way to quit smoking is to get yourself out of the familiar environment. If you have a friend who smoke, don't go join your friend who smoke. They even say, like, if the people in your workplace smoke, then quit and leave and find a new job. One of the familiar environment is the taste and the flavor of tobacco. So why not just get rid of that and just like have some kind of like more pleasurable flavor, as long as that flavor contains no harmful chemicals. Let's stress on the harmful chemical instead of the flavoring. Strawberry
Because
shortcake, cheesecake, blueberry tart.
yeah, they some of those sweet flavors contain higher levels of diacetyl, is it? Which is one of the
Uh-huh.
harmful chemicals.
Okay, diacetyl, popcorn lung. I know that's the mention. The beginning of the rumor about popcorn lung is because there's a popcorn factory. There's one popcorn factory in United States. That all of a sudden about 5 or 6 or 7 employees went to the hospital at the same time, and they found that the environment, one of the ingredient in popcorn was the acetyl, and so the doctors that are anti vaping has said like, oh wow, look, you know, there are just a few buttery flavor that contain diacetyl. So let's ban vaping. Let's avoid all this. When the case of popcorn, actually, there's nobody had died from popcorn lung, right? Even
Right.
directly. So in our vape community, as soon as we heard this, we spread out the word and say like, please do not use diacetyl. From what 10 years, 8 years ago, the spread out of the popcorn lung. Right now, I could guarantee you, especially in a controlled environment, you know, the liquid that had passed, you know, that had passed, let's say TPD, the European one, contains absolutely no diacetyl. Now, in countries that there's no law
Okay.
and regulation, I don't know. I can't guarantee you that. So it goes back to
Okay.
like, why should we leave the ban instead of, you know, like,
Yeah, it's pretty much all the harmful chemicals in e-liquid are also is also found in much higher quantities in cigarettes. That's something that they often don't
mm,
point out.
also,
So it sounds like what
okay,
you're saying is you don't
no,
think that vapes should be
no.
marketed to children, but all flavors should be legal. But and what about toy pods? Pods that are designed to look like toys, should they be legal?
Should or should not, like I said, you know, it's to the regulation and on the promotion itself. You cannot promote. And maybe you can control the box itself, you know, or the display and inside. And I don't care really personally. I don't mind having them. I enjoy the look of them, but you know, if they want to find something to ban, then yeah, sure, ban toy pot. Why not?
So, Asa, what does the future hold? I mean, it's quite striking traveling around Southeast Asia, countries like Singapore and Hong Kong. It's completely vaping is completely banned. You go to Philippines and Indonesia, and vapes are available in every convenience store. What does the future hold for the vaping ban in Thailand?
Let's say let me cut down one word though. What it looks like and what I hope for, there are two different things, right? when Pheu Thai was elected as the government before they elect the prime minister about a year ago, right after the election and everything is over, one of the main things that went into the cabinet was, you know, we have to restudy the laws and regulations on electronic cigarette, including heated tobacco product. Before that, there had been quite a few committees kind of touch on electronic cigarette, but mainly their concern would be on tobacco farmers, and then electronic cigarette kind of like tag along. So, but this one, there are 3 directions the government is going to take. The first direction is to keep on banning and to add more rule, laws, and regulations to be more involved. That means like what we discussed earlier, you know, the possession itself will be illegal, vaping will be illegal. The vaping, so I mean, like, I don't know, I'll probably be in big trouble because I already own some, and you know, I had asked some of the people inside and say like, well, what happened to something that we already possess? It may turn out like Australia, you know, like even if you already have it, you cannot have it anymore because it became like a war machine, or you know, like some dangerous machineries, weapons,
Mm.
like became weapon of mass destruction. And the second direction, so the first direction is going to be very strict, so they're going to come down on everything, right? Add more and more. The second direction is to lift the ban only on heated tobacco product that I mentioned earlier, because it's already similar to regular combustible cigarette. They sell in pack of 10, pack of 20s, except that it's a little, it could be more or less harmful, but it's similar, so they could tax it easier. You know, it's like they tax it the same as a regular combustible cigarette, and it's already in the form of cigarette. And probably one of the reasons is that not so many people use this heated tobacco product. The third direction is to reconsider all the laws, so rewrite all the rule laws, regulations on electronic cigarette, how to control it suitably, especially to protect from young, from youth, from the kids, from younger generation, and from nicotine naive people. And about 70, I don't know, you do the math, about out of 35 committees, about 20 or 21 members goes for the third option. So hopefully the paper that came out from this committee will reflect on the majority of the voices of the members. Of course, you know, they probably include like, why should they go for direction 1? Why should go for direction 2? Why should go for the third option? Which other direction or option they want to go to? But mainly they will probably hopefully we will be democratic enough, or democracy enough. I don't know. That's I could only speculate, and I could only hope for that they would at least listen to reason and at least some logic and scientific evidence. Apart from that, you know, like I could only hope.
We'll wait and see. Asa Saligupta, thanks for joining us here on Deeper Dive.
ครับขอบคุณครับ
What are the takeaways? Asa said that people will die from smoking during our conversation, and that breathing the air in Bangkok is far more dangerous than vaping. He said that the World Health Organization is not influenced by big tobacco, but by big pharma, which makes money not only from treating cancer, but also from selling nicotine replacement devices and drugs. He said if vaping is legalized in Thailand, tobacco farmers won't lose out, because the half of their crop they sell currently they can sell for heat-not-burn devices, and the other half that currently goes to waste can be turned into liquid nicotine. He said there are minute quantities of carcinogens in e-liquid compared to cigarettes, but that all e-liquid should be Thai-sourced only, and all devices must be regulated and controlled. He said toy pods could be banned, all marketing to children prohibited, and that vapes should carry a warning label saying even though they're much safer than cigarettes, they're not entirely safe. Finally, he said the majority of the committee set up to study the issue recommended that vaping be legalized, but he wasn't sure if it would happen because of entrenched interests. The opinions expressed here may not represent those of the Bangkok Post, but as a journalist, I don't think I've come across any issue where the official narrative is so much at odds with the scientific evidence. 1 in 4 Thai fathers smokes, and surely the massive public relations campaigns against vaping would be better spent reducing the smoking rate, which has barely declined in Thailand. Half of regular smokers die from their habit. and nobody in Thailand has ever died from vaping. E-cigarettes have been proven to be an effective way to quit smoking, as they were for about 10 people I know. But nobody who doesn't already smoke should try vaping. It's strictly a way to get off cigarettes. For one thing, even though it hasn't happened in 20 years of vaping, it's possible that at some point in the future, some vapers will develop cancer or other diseases. And even though cigarettes are lethal primarily because they're combustible, nicotine itself is not entirely harmless. It leads to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. It can affect brain development, particularly in adolescents, and it affects bone health. So while there's a strong argument that e-cigarettes should be legalized, controlled, and taxed, they should only be used as a way to quit far more dangerous cigarettes, as they are in our neighbor countries of Philippines and Indonesia. Some of the tax and customs revenue could be used to take additional measures to keep all vaping devices out of the hands of children. What do you think about vaping? Should it be legalized in Thailand? Depending on where you're watching or listening to this, leave your comments here or follow the link below to the Bangkok Post website. Please rate and review the podcast and tell your friends to search for Deeper Dive Thailand wherever they get their podcasts. You can email us at deeperdivetthailand@gmail.com. As always, keep up with all the latest local and world news 24/7 on bangkokpost.com. I'm Dave Kendall, and I'll see you again soon for another Deeper Dive.